students. In the previous class, we studied about the origin and evolution of universe, then origin and evolution of earth, and we also studied about origin of life. All these we were studying in order to understand how evolution is taking place. So some of the theories that we studied in the previous class about origin of life were theory of panspermia, theory of spontaneous generation, theory of biogenesis, and theory of chemical evolution. Of that, the most accepted theory of origin of life is a theory of chemical evolution, which was given by A.I. Oparin of Russia and J.B.S. Haldane from England. And Stanley Miller's glass apparatus experiment proved this theory to be right. This was followed by many other experiments, modified experiments conducted by others, and then the meteorite studies. All these proved the fact that theory of chemical evolution was right. Till this we have gone through. Now, still there was a doubt when exactly the self-replicating metabolic capsule, meaning aggregation of organic compound, when was that formed? There was doubt, and it was assumed that this must have happened 3 billion years ago. 3 billion years ago. Self-replicating metabolic capsule. So 3 billion years ago, in the origin of life, self-replicating metabolic capsule must have originated. Okay, and this metabolic capsule is nothing but aggregate of biomolecules. Biomolecules. What are these? This must be, it is assumed that these the biomolecules which formed aggregate and could undergo self-replication must be RNA, proteins, and polysaccharides. Such an aggregate, when it was formed, the aggregate, okay, RNA, protein, polysaccharide, they must have developed the ability to replicate. This was the first step in the origin of life. And when did it happen? 3 billion years ago. And when was the first cellular form? So this is acellular form. This is acellular. So first in the origin of life, this acellular form, origin of life, first acellular form, which is nothing but an aggregate of biomolecules, were formed. And then later on, first cellular form was formed. And it is assumed that the cellular form did not form till 2000 million years ago, okay? Till 2000 million years ago. Cellular form did not form till 2000 million years ago. And the cellular form, first cellular form was unicellular ones. They were unicellular. unicellular. Where did they originate? Everything, whether it is aggregate of organic compounds, first cellular form, everything originated in water, and specifically in the salt water, in the ocean. So this is how. So the most accepted, so we conclude, what is the most conclude about origin of life? The most accepted version of origin of life, most accepted version of origin of life it is that life started or originating in water, that is specifically in ocean, and it gradually originated from chemical molecules. So by the evolutionary aspect that is taking place in the chemicals, biomolecules, that is how origin of life originated. So origin of life took place. So this is the most accepted concept or the most accepted version. Life originated by gradual evolution of non-living chemical molecules. This is the most accepted version of origin of life. So we understood origin of life. So how are we studying? Origin of universe followed by evolution of universe. Then origin of earth followed by evolution of earth. Now we understood origin of life. Okay? So 3 billion years ago, self-replicating metabolic capsule, which is nothing but aggregate of biomolecules, were formed. First cellular form, that too unicellular form, did not originate till 2000 million years ago, and later on slowly this unicellular form became multicellular form. So this is about origin of life. Now I am going to tell you about evolution of life. So evolution of life, we will see evolution of life. So just like about origin of life, there were so many theories about origin of life. Evolution of life also, there were so many theories. So evolution of life. Theories. The first theory of its kind was called as theory of special creation. First theory is theory of special creation. So from the term only you see theory of special creation. This theory you see even in religious literature. Even now you see in religious literature, in religious literatures. In this you will see this special creation theory. So special creation, from the term as I told you, it believes that, it does not believe in evolution. It believes that, or it believes that there are three connotations. There are three connotations. Means aspects or rules on which this theory is built upon. So according to special creation theory, all the organisms that you see now, so many organisms you see now, all the organisms were specially created by some supernatural power, we call it as God. So that's the first connotation. So the first connotation says that, first one says, all organisms were created as such. As you see them now, as such, it was created by some supernatural power, we call it as God. The second connotation is, we find diverse type of living organisms, isn't it? according to this theory, this diversity that you see now was there when it started, is there and will be there in the future. Okay? The diversity of organisms was there, now it is there, and it will be there. It means there is no evolution. It does not believe in any evolution. And the third point is, Earth is, or the biosphere is only 4,000 years old. Earth is only 4,000 years old. So the question here, probable question is, what are the three connotations of the special creation theory? Where do you find this special creation theory? You can see this even now in religious literatures. If you look at, you will be able to see this special creation theory. It does not believe in any evolution. It believes that all organisms are specially created by some supernatural power, you call it as God, and the diversity of organisms that you see now was there, is there, will be there in the future also. And Earth is only 4,000 years old. So this was the first theory of its kind, which tried to give an explanation of evolution of life. Okay? As such, it believes that there is no evolution, I told you. Now this went on for some time, and it was during this time that in the 19th century, Charles Darwin, he came. The period during which he lived is called as a golden age of evolution, because the major understanding about how evolution took place occurred during his time, and he tried to give an explanation. So the time when he lived is considered as the golden age, just like we say golden age of reptiles is Mesozoic era, like that we say golden age of evolution is the time when Charles Darwin lived. Charles Darwin, he was a geologist, a naturalist and a biologist. Charles Darwin. So I am going to tell you the next theory, the theory proposed by Charles Darwin. He proved this special creation theory to be wrong. Okay? Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. His theory is the origin of species by natural selection. Natural selection. Now I will tell you what his theory was. So his theory totally proved theory of special creation to be wrong. Now how it was? I told you he was a geologist, young naturalist and biologist. Charles Darwin. He was a geologist, naturalist and biologist. He got a chance to go around the world in a ship by name HMS Beagle. HMS Beagle. It was the name of the ship in which he got a chance to go around the world, okay? Around the world. I told you it was in the 19th century. To be specific, it was on December 27th, 1831, this ship started its voyage, And earlier it was decided to go around the world in 2 years. But finally, when it came back in on October 2nd, 1836. So 5 years. The voyage lasted 5 years and it went around the world, and he got a chance, Charles Darwin got a chance to go in that. Till that time, even Charles Darwin believed in special creation theory only. He also believed that there is no evolution. But when he went around the world on a voyage in HMS Beagle, this is a very important question, name the ship in which, even for competitive examination also, HMS Beagle. This is the name of the ship in which Charles Darwin got a chance to go around the world. It went around the world for 5 years, and you can see that when he went in the ship, he observed many things. He was very much happy to see this. He observed many things, noted down many things, collected many specimens, and after coming back, he started looking at it, he started thinking about it, and he came to a conclusion. The conclusion, what was his conclusion? Charles Darwin's conclusion. The conclusion that Charles Darwin drew after coming back from the voyage. He understood that the organisms that is there now, they resembled among themselves, and also they resemble the ancestors from which they developed. Okay? And some organisms lived during certain geological period of the history of Earth. Okay? And some new organisms developed in due course. Okay? So what does it mean? It means that life is slowly evolving. So his conclusions. So first conclusion is that organisms resemble among themselves. They also resemble their ancestor. Many ancestors lived in different geological era of the history of Earth. History of Earth. Some organisms have become extinct. Some new organisms developed in due course. So these were his conclusions. So organisms resembled among themselves, different types of organisms, they resemble among themselves and also resemble with the ancestors. And these different organisms or different ancestors lived in different geological era, different period, if you look at the history of the Earth. Some of them you don't see now, some of them have become extinct, like for example the dinosaur. And some new organisms developed in due course, new organisms which are not there. So all these, they indicate that gradually, all this indicate gradually evolution takes place. So as I was telling you all, Charles Darwin also, before he went on a voyage in this HMS Beagle, he also believed in the special creation theory. He did not believe in evolution. But after observing all these things, he started thinking and he understood that evolution, he came to the conclusion that evolution is taking place, all this points to evolution, gradual evolution. So this was his understanding, okay. So how did he put it? He believed that if you consider a population, okay, consider a population of any organism. In that, all individuals are not same. There will definitely be variations. Some variation will be beneficial, some will be harmful. Let me give you an example. You consider a group of rabbits, let us see, okay, a population of rabbits. All of them can run very fast, but some can run faster than the others. Now suppose a wolf came there, all of them will run for their life. The rabbit which is capable of running very fast definitely will be the one which escapes from the wolf, isn't it? So what I mean to tell you is that in every population like that, Darwin believed that there will be variations. All population variation iruttade. And those variation which will help, so in that, in the population of rabbit, the one which could run faster, that variation. Like that, in each population there will be variation, and those individuals possessing variation, having variation, that will help them to survive better in the conditions that is there. It can be, it can be climatic condition, it can be food, it can be any physical other conditions, any conditions for that matter. In that particular condition, those organisms having variation, that will help them to survive better. Okay? In the population of rabbit, the one which could run faster. That's a simple example. I am just helping you to help understand the concept. Okay? So the organism which will be having the variation, that will help them to survive better in the conditions prevailing, will survive. And Darwin called it fittest. By fittest, Darwin did not mean the person who is economically or very rich or who has studied lots, not that fittest. He meant reproductive fitness. That is, organism which will be capable of leaving more offspring. And nature will select those organisms which are reproductively fit. So, new species, as time goes on, many such variations will accumulate and finally a new species will be formed. Okay? Finally a new species will be formed. So what is happening? Gradual evolution. And who is playing a very important role? Nature. So evolution, according to Charles Darwin, origin of species by natural selection. Gradual evolution. Okay? So with this conclusion, he put forth certain ideas. I am going to write down what were the ideas that he has put forth. Okay? Darwin believed that after concluding those aspects, he proposed this, or he believed and proposed this, that in every population, by the way, what is the meaning of population? Group of individuals of a species. okay, at a time in a given area, that is population. Group of individuals of a species at a time in a given area, that is population. Okay. So, Darwin believed and proposed that in every population there will be variations. All organisms are not same. There will be definitely different organisms showing different variations. There will be variation. Okay? And the next aspect he believed and proposed was those individuals which are possessing variation that will help them to survive better in the conditions prevailing, like for example climate, food, physical factors, they will survive and leave more offsprings. Okay? Those having variation that help them survive better under the conditions prevailing. Like food, climate, or any physical factors. Will survive and leave more offsprings. This is the second one thing he believed. And the third thing is that he called such individuals fittest. He called them fittest. By fittest he meant reproductive fitness. He meant reproductive fitness. He meant reproductive fitness. And in the long run, such organisms will be selected by nature. Nature will select such organisms. And finally, it will become, due to the accumulation of many such variation, ultimately new species is formed. Okay? Due to accumulation of such variations, new species is formed. This is what he told about evolution. Artha aitala? So, in each population there will be variation, and those which are having variation which will help them to survive in the conditions that is prevailing. It can be any of these conditions, any other condition also can be there. In such condition, those which are having variations which will help them to survive better will survive and leave more offsprings. He called them fittest. What did he mean by fittest? Reproductive fitness. Those organisms which is capable of leaving more offsprings, that is called as reproductively fit. And nature will select such organisms. Okay? And in the long run, as time goes on, that is the meaning. As time goes on, such variations will accumulate and finally, one new species origin ಆಗ್ತದೆ. So this is what he told. This is the gist or the main point of his theory. What is the name of the theory? And helidala, origin of species by natural selection. Origin of new species by nature selection. This is his theory. And this theory proved theory of special creation to be wrong. Now, around the same time, so this was Charles Darwin's theory. When Charles Darwin was proposing this theory, actually he has written down and he was about to publish. That time, another naturalist, okay, a person who has traveled a lot like Charles Darwin, surprisingly he also came to the same conclusion. He was working in Malay archipelago, okay. It's a group of islands, okay, in Malay archipelago, and he also came to the same conclusion as Darwin. So I have written the conclusions, same conclusions, that is, organisms will resemble among all organisms, they will resemble among themselves and also will resemble with their ancestor. Some of the organisms became extinct in the different geological era of the history of Earth. New organisms were formed in due course, okay. Same thing. And he concluded that the geological history of Earth is intimately, very closely related with the biological history of Earth. He also believed that special creation theory was telling that Earth is only 4,000 years old. No, he did not believe in it. He proposed that Earth is billions, many years old, not few thousand years old. So this was his conclusion. So he also, surprisingly, I told you, he also came to the same conclusion as Darwin came to when he went on a voyage in HMS Beagle, okay. Alfred Russel Wallace. He was working at Malay archipelago. And he came to the same conclusion as Darwin. So, I have already written about the conclusions that Darwin has come to, so I am not repeating it, but the extra points that he had concluded, that I will write. So, I will repeat the conclusion. All organisms, they resemble among themselves and also resemble with that of their ancestor. And different ancestors lived during different geological period or era of the history of Earth. Some of them became extinct during certain period of the history of Earth. New organisms were formed in due course. He believed that the other aspects, so these are very common to that of Darwin's conclusion. The next point is he believed that the geological history of Earth, is intimately or is closely related. It is closely related to the biological history of Earth. Meaning, as Earth is evolving like that, the life also evolved on Earth. And what was the other thing? One more aspect. Earth is many billion years old. Very old Earth is, not few thousand years. So this was the conclusion that was drawn by Alfred Russel Wallace. Actually, Alfred Russel Wallace, after writing down his conclusion, he sent it to Charles Darwin to see that. And Charles Darwin was very much surprised, and both the conclusions were so similar, and then finally they proposed the theory together. Okay, origin of species by natural selection. So that was about the evolution of life. So I was telling you all evolution of life, the theories. The two main theory that you have studying is, one is a special creation theory, then origin of species by natural selection, first proposed by Darwin. Roughly at the same time, Alfred Russel Wallace, who was also a naturalist and geographer, and he also had traveled a lot, and he also came to the same conclusion. He was working at Malay Archipelago, and he came to the same conclusion as Charles Darwin. So that was about evolution of life. Now the next aspect that we are going to study is, or look into, is evidences that support that evolution is taking place. Many of us do not want to accept the fact that evolution is taking place, because we will have to accept that we have come from monkeys. But as you know, as development was taking place in different fields of biology, evidences were pouring in from different fields. Some of the evidences we are going through. I'll just mention it, then we'll discuss each one. Paleontological evidence, study of comparative morphology and anatomy, evidence is coming from that. Biochemical evidence, evidence from controlled breeding, evidence from natural selection, and adaptive radiation, which is a biogeographical evidence. So this much you have to study. Actually there are so many other evidences, embryological evidence is there, connecting link evidence is there, vestigial organ evidence is there, so many evidences are there. But these are the 6 evidences that we are going to study. So evidences of evolution. So we understood origin of life, the most accepted version of origin of life. Then today we went through the origin, the evolution of life. Now I am going to tell you about evidences of evolution. So as development, I told you, as development were taking place in different fields of biology. So many understanding about the organism, study, comparative study, everything helped and pointed to the fact that evolution is taking place. So the first evidence that we are going to study is the evidence that was coming from paleontological studies. Paleontological evidences. Evidence is coming from paleontological study. Now what is meant by this paleontology? Paleontology when I was talking about evolution, evolution is a classical branch of biology, I told you, like that. Paleontology, okay, logos means study of fossils, paleontology. It is a classical branch of biology that deals with the study of fossils, okay, study of fossils. What is the meaning of fossils? Fossils are remains of hard parts of the organisms in rock. Fossils are remains of hard parts of organisms in rock. So that is the study from that. Now how do you get these fossils? Now if you look at the you know, the earth, if this is a crust, earth's crust, if you take a section like this, if you take a section, it will look like this. This is one layer, this is another layer, it looks like this, okay. This is the section of Earth's crust. Adu nodidre, you will find different layers of sediments, different layers of sediments. How is this formed? Sediments, they are formed when the rock undergo weathering process. Rocks, they will undergo weathering, slow breaking down, and sediments are formed. So, if you take a section of Earth's crust, okay, you will find different layers of sediments. Ondondu layer is formed during the geological period when the weathering has taken place. So, if you very carefully make a study about this layer, each layer, slowly if you open it up, you will be able to see if at all any fossil is there, you will be able to get it. So, the age of this layer, it is possible to determine when it was formed, the geological era when it was formed in the history of Earth, when it was formed. So, the fossil in that means the organisms, it is a fossil of organisms, the hard remains of the organisms which lived during the period when it was formed. Alva? So, you can see that when you make a study about each and every sediment layer, you will get different fossils. Such a study was made, okay. The fossils of this layer, fossils of this layer, fossils of this layer was found, they were collected. And the age in the history of the earth when that sediment was formed was determined. It was found, the age of that fossil could be found at that time, isn't it? So, when such a study was done, it was found that some of the organisms, some of the fossil resemble the organism that you see now, okay. What was the conclusion? Some fossils resembled organisms we see now. Some fossils, there was no relation at all. That means that some of them have become extinct, okay. Some have become extinct. Like dinosaur. And new organisms are seen now. Some new organisms are seen now. So, what does it indicate? Some of the fossils resemble the organism that we see now. Some of them have become extinct. Some organisms which we see now were not there. So, what all these things will point? All these things points to evolution. Gradual evolution, isn't it? So, it is a very good example or evidence. Example proposing that evolution is taking place, or evidence. So, we are talking about evidences of evolution. The first evidence that we have dealt with now is paleontological evidence. I told you, as development took place in different fields of biology, so many understanding about the organisms took place, and this helped us to understand that evolution is taking place. And the first evidence is paleontological evidence. It is nothing but evidences coming from the study of fossils. Fossils means remains, ancient remains of hard parts of organisms in rock. When the rock undergoes weathering process, sediments will be formed. How to find out the sediments? If you take a section of earth, you will be able to see different or many layers of such sediments. In each sediment, if you make a very careful study, you will find fossils. It is possible to determine the age when the sediment was formed. So, you will be able to understand at what time that fossil was formed. So, when such a study was conducted, it was found that some of the fossils resemble the organisms that we see now. Some fossils, they have become extinct. You do not see them now, like for example dinosaur. And some organisms that we see now, it is not there. So, this points that gradually evolution is taking place. So, this is the first evidence. The second evidence that we are going to study is the evidence that comes from comparative anatomy and morphological study. Comparative, so I am talking about the second evidence. First evidence, paleontological evidence artha aitala. The next evidence, hege ada evidence agudu. Next one is the evidence from comparative morphology and morphological, I would write, morphological and anatomical study evidence. Morphology, morphe means external form, logos means study of. Morphology is study of external structures, external characteristic feature. And anatomy, anatomia means cutting apart. As far as plant is concerned, taking a section and making a study. Last year you have done in the practicals, taken a section, stained it and observe it under the microscope. So, anatomical study. So, you will find what are the different tissues with which the plant is made up of. Whereas, if it is an animal, you cut open. Animal adre, cut open. If it is animal, if it is plant, you take section. Stain it. If it is animal, you cut open and make a study. What are the organs, what is the organ system and all. Such a study is called anatomical study. So, as development took place in the morphological and anatomical study, and they started comparing and making a study of different organisms. And the conclusion that they found that it was very amazing, because so many evidences they got. Let me give you one example. Take the forelimb of man, cheetah, then whale, bat, birds tegibodu, lions tegibodu. Few examples. If you take these, how does it look? Are they similar? Forelimb of man, mate cheetah, whale, bat. They look morphologically different. Alva? Morphologically same alla. Ella different. Function nodidre Man, we use our forelimb for various aspects, forelimb, our hand for various aspects. Cheetah, usually for running, of course, catching hold of the prey. Whale, swim madliki. Mate idu. For flying. So functions different. Functions different. Morphologically different, function also different. So we think that it is totally different. Illa. If you see anatomically nodidre, last year, first year you have studied in locomotion and movement in your skeletal system, you studied. Our upper arm have got a bone which is called as humerus. The lower arm is having radius and ulna. Wrist is having carpels. Palm is having metacarpals. And the fingers are having phalanges. Alva? You remember? Yes. So, the same thing is found here, here. Morphologically different. But all are made of humerus, radius and ulna, carpels, metacarpals and phalanges anatomically. ಇದರಿಂದ ಏನು ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತದೆ? They have anatomically ಎಲ್ಲ same. But to perform different function, bat for flying, okay, whale for swimming, man for various other aspects, then cheetah for running and all. So you can see that they have all originated, they have same origin same, okay, origin same, but morphologically or anatomically similar, morphologically and functionally different to suit whatever requirements, okay, whichever requirement they wanted. For that they diverged. So we say that this type of, they have evolved. So we call it as divergent evolution. From this point, they have diverged in order to suit the requirement. So we call it as divergent evolution has taken place. So these organs are result of divergent evolution. Athara organs ge, what we can tell? We can call such organs as homologous organs. So what are homologous organs? Organs which have same origin but morphologically and functionally different. They are called as homologous organs. So you call these as homologous organs. And the phenomenon is called homology. This points, so what does it point to? Evolution. It has they have evolved, alva, divergent in order to suit the conditions that is prevailing. So this is the best example as far as animal is concerned. Now I will cite two more other examples in animals. Explanation in detail is not required, you have to remember that. The examples are the heart and brain in vertebrates. This is also very good example of another example in animals showing homologous organs. So what is the best example of homologous? So what are homologous organs? Organs which have the same origin but morphologically and functionally different. And the best example is forelimb of man, cheetah, whale and bat. Other example in animal is the heart and the brain in vertebrates. So this is animal example showing homology, the phenomenon, or homologous organs. What is it result of? Divergent evolution. They have the same anatomical makeup. In order to suit the conditions prevailing, they have diverged. They are developed in different lines, that is the meaning. Now we will see the examples in plants, okay. Homologous organs. So we are talking about homologous organs in plants. Example of divergent evolution or in plants. Homologous organs. Best example, first example that you have to study is thorn of bougainvillea. Thorn of bougainvillea, okay, and tendril of pomegranate. Thorn ಹೇಗೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ? Thorn ನೋಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಹೀಗೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ. Thorn is like this, stiff pointed ಅಲ್ವಾ? And what is its function? Protection. Protection. Grazing animals in the protection. Alva, morphologically it looks like this. Tendril andre, tendril, it looks like this. Slender, coiled. Slender and coiled. What is its function? Support, isn't it? Its function is support. Idu, like this, it will be coiling around the support, okay. So, thorn and tendril, thorn in bougainvillea, thorn in pomegranate. It is specific, example is specific, okay, not in others. So, you will find that they look morphologically different, functionally also different. But if you see the origin ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಇದು petiole, okay, petiole, ಇದು stem. ಇದೆಂತ axil ಅಲ್ವಾ? Axil. In morphology of angiosperms or flowering plants, first year you have studied. The angle between the stem and the petiole is called as axil. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು bud ಇದ್ರೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆಂತ ಹೇಳುದು axillary bud. It's called axillary bud. Thorn in bougainvillea and tendril in pomegranate both have developed from the axillary bud. Axillary bud modify ಮಾಡಿ stiff pointed thorn is formed in bougainvillea and slender coil structure in pomegranate. And so you can see that they are morphologically different, functionally different, but origin is same. So it becomes a very good example of this evolution or homologous organs. Homologous organs. ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ? Okay. So this is the comparative one aspect. Another one is analogous organs. It's the reverse of homologous organs. Analogous organs. Analogous. So what is homologous? What are homologous organs? Organs whose origin is same but morphologically and functionally different. Now we are going to talk about analogous organs. analogous organs. Okay? These are organs, origin different. I told you it is reverse of homologous organs, but morphologically and functionally same. Phenomenon is analogy. These are organs whose origin is different but morphologically and functionally same, and the phenomenon is called as analogy. We will see examples in animals, okay? In animals. First example, wing of bird, wing of insect. What is wing of bird? Modified forelimb. It will have humerus, radius, ulna, carpal, metacarpal, phalanges. Now we will discuss madidavalla. Insect nodidre, it is coming under phylum Arthropoda. It is a non-chordate. So what is a wing of insect? Lateral expansion of chitinous exoskeleton. Okay? Noduvaga, of course, size and all different, but morphologically they are similar. Functionally, for flying, similar. Morphologically and functionally same. But origin is totally different. In the wing of insect, you will not find all these bones that you see in the bird, but morphologically and functionally similar. Okay? So, such organs, origin which is different, morphologically and functionally same, you call them as analogous organ. Another example in animal is eye of octopus and man. Eye of octopus and man. Origin is different. Okay? They develop in different way. So, here if you look at, you can see that bird, insect, different, but to suit the same purpose flying, they have evolved to the same point, evolved to the same point. So, this is called as convergent evolution. So, it is a result of convergent evolution. Analogous organs are results of convergent evolution. Now, example in plants. Plants alli nodidre examples. What is the example? One example you have to study in plants, and the example that you have to study in plants is sweet potato. Sweet potato and potato. Where do you see them? Eradu kuda below the soil, in the surface, in the soil, within the soil. Below the surface, within the soil. Okay, you see them. They are swollen, even though not of the same shape, swollen. What is the function? Storage of reserve food. Function. So, morphologically similar, function kuda similar. But origin nodidre, this is, last year you have studied, modified root. Idu ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇರ್ತದಲ್ಲ, buds. So, it is modified stem. It is modified stem. So, even though morphologically and functionally they are similar, this is modified root and this is modified stem. Such organs are called as analogous organs. Adu kuda hege point ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ? they have evolved towards the same point, convergent evolution. So, these are the evidences from the comparative morphological and anatomical study. Morphology is study of external form, anatomy is study of internal organization. When such studies progressed, it was found that there were so many similarities and differences. Homologous organs and analogous organs are very good examples of that.